welcome to the Wisdom and Bloom podcast,
Welcome,
where,
welcome, welcome.
where we empower women over 40 who are on their journey of self discovery, self awareness, and spiritual growth. And
Absolutely,
we
absolutely.
have been talking about self acceptance. And today we want to extend the conversation and bring a guest in to talk about self acceptance from her perspective as a woman of color and just, broaden the conversation a little bit more. So, Denise, do you want to talk a little bit about our guest?
Absolutely. So, guys, thank you so much, first of all, for sharing this platform with us, Miss Adrian. Our guest today is Miss Adrian Goodwin. And Adrian is a 20-year detective. She's a children's author. She's a public speaker. One of her books that is really good, a children's book called Twins in the City. Let's learn about police officers, where she sparks vital conversation that bridges the gap between the community to ensure safety between the community and law enforcement. She is a first generation law enforcement office. She dedicated her career to serving her local community, strengthening her community bonds, and she joined them in 2005. So she's been doing this for a minute, y'all, on street narcotics enforcement, detective squads. I believe a critical negotiator, investigative skills. She is a recipient of the Hope Award for her expertise in crisis negotiation. She's passionate about her DE&I avocation, and beyond law enforcement, she is a dedicated educator and a community leader in her community. She is an enthusiast when it comes to DE&I. She's an adjunct professor, and she is a loving mother to 4 beautiful kids, a loving wife, and a fitness enthusiast. And I've seen your fitness journey from the time I met you to now, and you are dedicated. And I mean, it has just been inspiring to watch Miss Adrian. Everyone, please, please, please welcome Miss Adrian Goodwin as she comes to share her journey, her story, and hopefully, bring our sisterhood and community together a little bit more, and we resolve a few problems along the way. Welcome, Miss Adrian.
Welcome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for that warm introduction. It is such a pleasure to be here. And this is such a vital topic, and to have a podcast to create a space for women to be able to grow, because even though you're 40, we're still evolving. So to be able to create this space is critical in today's time. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was telling you that when I introduced this topic, this mission idea to Kamesha like, I don't know what we're gonna talk about, how we're gonna face this, and how we're gonna build this community. And as we have been digging into this, Miss Adrian, I want to tell you that the topics are running off the page. We have topic after topic. And when we look at these topics as a woman over 40, and especially a woman of color, we have experienced or touched 90% of these topics and don't have the appropriate research or avenue to reach out, to go to get the help that we need. And so I feel like this has been such a vital part and purpose for us, and to be on this journey. So thank you. Thank you again. I totally agree with you.
Mhm. So we want to kick off our discussion today, Adrian, by talking about a little bit with you about self-acceptance, because this was something that we have visited, just Denise and I, in our past episode. Kind of in general, we talked about self-acceptance from different perspectives, but we would love to hear what your understanding is and your journey has been towards self-acceptance at this point in your life, and also as a woman and as a woman of color. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Self-acceptance is a deeply personal issue. It's a journey that I feel like it's ever evolving. And it takes us through these stages in our lives, from childhood to teen to mother, career, personal expectations that we have as individuals. And I think sometimes as women, we take on identities of our environment, our mothers, our parents, our work family, that sometimes it takes us just a little longer to really identify and find out who we are.
Mm. That's powerful. Adrian,
That's
that is powerful. Before we kicked off the podcast, me and Kamesha was talking about how I get up in the morning at like 5:30 every morning and I cook my grandkids breakfast before they go to school. Kamesha's like, "Why are you doing that? Those are teenagers. It's very long, you're exhausted. Like, what is happening, you know?" And what I said to her was, my grandmother used to do it. She used to do it. And
Mhm.
so I do it because, that's what I've been taught. That has been the normal thing. But can you imagine? I'm exhausted sometimes. And I can just imagine just today, I was thinking about her and I got teary-eyed and I in one of my therapy sessions and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she was tired. She was
Mhm.
tired. Nobody recognized it. Nobody cared because the damn eggs and biscuits was on the table and they were good, you know?"
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
definitely. It's something that we really don't realize until we pause
Mhm.
and take a step back and reflect, who am I in
Yeah.
this process?
Yeah.
How am I showing up in different spaces? What are the things that I like to do, right? For some of us, for me, growing up in a single parent household, seeing my mother work day in and day out to provide, what does that do for me? Resilience. You got to be strong. You got to toughen up. You got to get it done no matter what. And you
Mhm.
carry this burden on your back through your life. And then you just sit and you go, like,
Yeah.
why?
Just you're saying exactly like you're saying, you ask yourself like, who am I? Because you have to kind of get to the core of who you are, not
Yeah.
all of the people, right? Who you have grown up around, who you have been influenced by, not just your family and friends, but even society, right? So society puts these different roles on us. And it takes some time for us to be like, well, wait a second, I don't even like that. Like that, I'm not even interested in that. Or, that I used to think that was important, but now it's not important anymore. And you have to kind of really start to uncover who you are. And that is where the self acceptance, I think, starts to really come in, when you really sit with who you truly are and then have to understand, okay, everybody might not like me, might not like who I'm becoming. But it's important that at least I start to accept who I'm becoming and who I am. And all of our experiences play a role in that, right? From especially, being women, being Black women, from discrimination, from racism, from privilege, from maybe you were brought up in as in a single mother household like I was in the city, right? Like all of these things definitely shapes who we are. And then we also have to take time to understand, okay, we can unload some of these things that we
Yeah.
used to carry around with us, right? When we were in a different situation and circumstance too.
That's good that you said that, because I think that's where, not to say that the things that we have gone through are negative, right? It shaped us into who we are. Like, none of us would be at this very moment had we not experienced the things that we have gone through. But I think there comes a time where we have to go, what works and what does not work. So you're
Mhm.
constantly reassessing and reevaluating where you are in life, and then ensuring that the things that are happening in your environment are aligned to the next place that you're trying to go.
Mhm.
But we're
Mhm.
always trying to figure out what's the next move, but also just sitting in gratitude. I don't want to skip over that, right? Being grateful for
Mhm.
what we are,
Very,
but just assessing, does this fit in my little puzzle box, right?
yeah.
So I think that's important too, is to really take time to just reflect.
And it seems like that who am I hits you after 40, after 50, like, oh my God, like I've done all the things for everyone and I've kind of lost my existence along the way. And now all the things that I've done, they don't benefit me. They benefit everyone around me. So when I decide that I say, who am I? And I'm going to stop doing it, now they feel like something's wrong with me. Well, what's
Mm.
wrong with her? Well, why she's not doing it? Is she sick? Well, what's going on? You know,
She
what
said.
is your perspective in that very thing, those key moments in experience that have maybe shifted your mindset, Adrian, to say, well, who am I? Because I seen you start your physical fitness journey. I spoke with you I think almost a year ago when we had our first conversation. And I watch your platform is so inspiring, and you don't quit. You are determined to to be to give yourself self-acceptance and self-love. How does that what shifted your mindset?
Yeah, so there has been a couple of pivotal moments in my life, but one in particular was my journey to motherhood. I think that was like the groundbreaking. If I had to just pin one thing in my life, it would be my journey to motherhood. And of course, societal pressures of becoming a mother, when that's going to take place, and those sorts of things. But my journey was very long, over 2.5 years. But there was a moment in that process where my gynecologist, she said, I just don't understand why you're not getting pregnant. And
Mm.
I'm going to send you to have an ambulatory procedure to see if your tubes are blocked, because I had a prior surgery. So I go to the procedure, the doctor comes in, he does the examination, he goes back out the room, and he comes back. When he comes back, he has this pen and pad and he delivers the news. And what he said just like rocked me. He
Yeah.
said, your left tube is blocked and your right tube is partially blocked. Now I'm laying on a table and I can just feel the tears are just like cascading down my face, down my back. And I can still vividly see this room today. And an angel walks into the room. Now
Mm.
she was a nurse, but I call her my angel because what she said to me at that very moment shifted the way that I operated. It shifted the way that I showed up in the world. And what she said, and what a lot of women need to realize that I didn't understand at that very moment, she said, your journey is not going to look like anybody else's journey. But then the next thing was important. She said, what is your end goal? And I said, my
Wow.
end goal is to give birth, is a
Yeah.
mother. She said, you will get there. Have you heard of the poem Robert Frost, The Road Less Traveled? So I say that to say sometimes as women, we compare our process, our success, our journeys to other women, not knowing that our lives are just strategically planned and designed for us.
Yeah.
But we have to trust our own process. And at that moment, I said, okay, I trust you.
Mm.
Wherever this leads, I trust you. And there was more to that journey, but in the end, he gave me double for my trouble. He blessed me with twin girls. So had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have been at that moment. And what I remember is I came home from the hospital before I had the girls. I had this procedure, and I'm laying on my couch, and I could feel something just stabbing me in the back, and I'm like, what is that feeling? And I told my husband, I looked on WebMD and tried to figure out what these symptoms were coming from. And I was like, rush me to the emergency room. And when I got there, triage was in seconds. They rushed me back and they said, you have a pulmonary embolism. You
Jeez.
could have died. So the fact that I survived,
Yeah.
the fact that I survived gave me purpose.
Yeah.
It gave me a different perspective in life. And I always say that my girls, I gave them birth, but they gave me life.
Oh,
A new meaning of
beautiful.
how I approach life. So that has been such a pivotal moment in my life that kind of shaped the way that I show up today.
In that journey, though, Adrian, in that journey, as you're going through the self-discovery, you're going through the self-acceptance, you're going through the self-awareness of your body physically and spiritually, what was the fear? What was all the fears that encompassed you? And how did you make your way out of that fear? Because fear paralyzes us as women. And the older we get, the more that fear will paralyze us. So how did you, walk through that fear?
Yeah, with the fear there was I was older.
Mm.
I Is it going to happen? What are my options? We explore different options. Um, just overcoming all of those medical challenges along the way. And then, you begin to ask the question, why me, to be honest? Like, why is this happening? Something that seems to be such an easy thing, right? But I really just had to overcome um, that fear and just accept where I'm at, and where God was just going to take me in that journey of becoming a mother.
In that acceptance, did you ever want to just fight it? Just like I throw my hands up, I can't do this.
It was tough. It was tough. It was really tough. I can remember moments of that journey, going through IVF. I remember I was getting an award at a courthouse in a city, and I'm looking at my clock, and I had to give myself a shot at a certain time. And I'm in a bathroom, and I'm sterilizing the bathroom, and I'm getting my needles set up. But that is to say that no matter what's going on around, like, we just have to stay locked into our goal, locked into our purpose. The road is not going to be easy, but the journey is going to be worth it. Like, there is just purpose that lies in the roads that we travel. We just have to kind of like pick up those pieces and just accept them, and just keep your eyes on a prize. Just like the nurse said, what is your end goal? So I think sometimes when we focus on where we're going, we can begin to put people and places around us that will support us, that will nurture us, that can help us get to that finish line. Whatever it is that you're searching for as a woman, whether it's building your self-confidence, whether it's your personal expectations, your career, keep your eyes on the prize, and build your environment. I think that's important too, as we try to overcome those fears and those challenges, is having a supportive system.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, supportive systems are very, very important. But one thing you said actually um, took me back to just kind of this whole idea of being shaped by external
Mm.
things, right? When you talked about what the nurse said as a mother, because there's this idea that the path to motherhood is easy, right? Like, oh, you decide you want to have a baby, you just have a baby. That's it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, there's nothing else. And then because that's what we see, right? We see, that's what it
Mm-hmm.
should be in TV and in papers and all these kinds of things. People just want to have kids and they just have children, and then that also kind of, if it doesn't happen the way you were told it's supposed to happen for you, now that has you wondering about who you are as a person, as a woman. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's my value now? What's my worth? Like, it's not working out the way that I thought that it was supposed to be. And that moment when the nurse said to you, motherhood is not gonna look like it does for you for every, like for you the
Yeah.
way it does for everybody else. It's almost like then you were able to kind of claim, oh, I'm okay with that. Like, it's more of you just accepting this is your path and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay too. And there's nothing wrong with taking this path, right? I'm still great. I'll still be a great mom. It's just gonna look different. And I think that's a really kind of important example that you brought up of like how it does change, right? What we've seen externally, once we have our own experiences, to be like, okay, well, am I going to take that in to say that that's who I am and this is what has to happen for me? Or am I going to say, oh no, I'm different and this is going to be my experience and that's going to be good too?
That's good. Accepting your path. That's good.
And that self acceptance, like you said, Kamesha, and you said, Adrian, it looks different for everyone. But don't we look through this glass house or look at others and go, well, why couldn't it have happened like that for me? We
Mm-hmm.
we almost debunk or talk ourselves out of accepting our path by looking at other people's path and
Mm-hmm.
comparing is a sin. I've always looked at it. Oh my
The sin
God.
of comparison.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sin of comparison, it will take you down the rabbit hole. How do you get out of that comparison state where you are accepting everyone else's path, but because your path looks different, you question the acceptance. And I want to ask both of you, Kamesha, you and Adrian, how do you get yourself out of that?
I think in the earliest stage, I think we all go through that. I think we all have those moments where we're just saying it should be like this, just because that's just what we've learned and heard growing up. But there does come a moment where you just have to just, like Kamesha said, I have to own my path and not doubt it. And whatever is meant for me, it will come to pass. That's the only thing you have. Like, that's the only thing you have is you have to believe.
Yeah. You have to believe in yourself and in your life and in your path and in your God, and that everything that's happening for you is working out for you, right? And working out for your good. Like that's what changes things for me. That's what changed things for me, because I used to be a little bit of a perfectionist, and when things didn't work, oh, what's wrong? What's happening? Why is life going this way? And then there was something I heard, and it's similar to what you said about the nurse. Like, you just hear something differently, And when I heard that everything is happening for your good, it forced me to kind of look at it as not a negative thing. It's like, this is just what's happening for my good. Right? It might not happen for Denise's good. It might not happen for Adrian's good. But like, this is happening for my good. And then I just shifted kind of the perspective. But to your point, like, that's not something I was thinking when I was 25. You know what I mean? Like, I got around to that older, much older.
We're living life, and I think that's, we're living life, we're enjoying life. And then you hit that moment where, okay, I want to go to the next level in X. I want to do this. Okay, well, what is that going to look like? How do I have to show up now? What do I have to do? What things I have to kind of move around? We're always constantly evolving. I remember prior to having the girls, whole nother journey dealing with like thyroid and Graves' disease. Like, I hit the lowest point in my life, like the lowest point where I lacked confidence. I didn't want to take pictures. I was like running from my potential because I didn't want to show up. Like, I didn't feel good. Sometimes I didn't feel like I looked good. I was weak. I didn't even have the energy to show up. And I just hit like this low point. And I'm like, okay, this is where that self-acceptance. Okay, let's sit back. What is it that you want to do? And how are you going to get there? First, you have to get well, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to take those breaks in this journey of life, and just sit back and just be well, mentally. Before we can do anything else, is that we have to make sure that our foundation is solid before we begin to just build on top of that. But everything in life is a process that I think sometimes we don't want to go through because it's taking too long. But it's such a crucial moment. And I think it's hard for people when they're going through the process, is because they don't see the results right away and they get discouraged.
Same with like working out. If I worked out today, Adrian. I worked out today, and I meditated, and I didn't lose 5 pounds. So I may not do it tomorrow.
So maybe tomorrow you should give up.
Right. No, we have to be resilient in this pursuit called happiness. And that's when we get to the place where we are at peace, with ourselves, and we accept all that we are. Sometimes you sit back and you go, how did I get here? How did Kamesha end up here? Because events could take place in our lives that sometimes we put blinders on and we don't want to accept. But we just sit back and go like, how did Denise get here? This podcast, this marriage, these kids, like, what was that journey like? And then you go, okay, I know why this happened. Okay, I can give that person forgiveness. I can give that person grace. I can, you start to kind of move through this ladder, and then you just have like this sigh of relief. Like, it's okay, because you want grace as a 40-plus-year-old woman. So can we go back sometimes and just give those moments, people in our lives, just a little grace, that they were just maybe trying to do the best that they could, you know, whatever those circumstances are, because we at this point where we want it, right? So we want things that we have to be able to give as women.
Well, I think you touched on something too when you said this pursuit of happiness, because we have to be in charge of our lives. We'll be forever pursuing, you know what I mean? We'll never ever catch up, you know, to this thing called happiness, where you have moments of happiness and times of happiness, but you have to actually know who you are, at least have some idea of what it is that you want, so that you can start moving to a place where you're creating a life that is going to give you this happiness, you know? And I remember when Denise was reading your bio, you've done like a million things, you know, from, you know, being a negotiator to being an author and fitness, and all of that is in your pursuit, right? Of your best self, of the life that you want, of the kind of person that Adrian wants to be. And I think that's definitely something we have to recognize, that it's an active thing too, right? It's not a passive thing. It's something that we have to kind of actively decide and actively go after in life.
And every day you're asking yourself, what can I do today that gets me one step closer to that goal?
One thing you said too, Adrian, is you said, how did I get here? Not physically, but literally, how did I get here? How did I get here in this marriage? How did I get here with these kids? How did I get here on this podcast? I had to take one of my grandjoys to the cardiologist, and it was a first visit with this particular cardiologist, and he sat down with us and he drew this circle, and in that circle he put my grandjoy's name, and then he just started putting, you know, spider lines from her name, and he starts asking us questions. Well, who is this to her, and what do they have? Who is this to her, and what? And before you know it, he had all these lines from her with names of relatives and cousins and things that she's done, how she felt, but she was in the center. And so when you said that, I thought, what a great exercise to put my name down and put a circle on my name and have a line and say, you know, I'm married. Another line, how did I get there? Am I in that marriage? You know, have another line, I'm a mom. How did I get there? And who am I? What type of mother am I? What do I own? What's my ownership in that? You know, I love that. And I think that is an exercise that we as women, we may not be able to do it or want to do it physically to write it down, but mentally we should be thinking, I'm the center of all of this, and I'm the owner of me. How did I become this owner of all these other things around me?
That's so good. That would be an amazing workshop. A visual workshop, I think, would be groundbreaking for women to be able to just sit in that and really unpack that. That's good, Denise. You should definitely explore.
Yeah, I like this idea too. And also, I feel many times we aren't giving, like you said, ourselves enough grace or giving ourselves enough credit for the lives that we have built for ourselves, right? Because so many times we're looking for like what's not there, like what's not working, what's not fitting. And so you're making a circle and you're like, I'm in the center, but like, you know, without me, we wouldn't have all of these other connections, right? I wouldn't have all these other relationships. I wouldn't have all these other wonderful people in my life and all these other wonderful things going on. And it's good for us to actually take time to appreciate like how far we've come and the things that we've been able to create for ourselves and our lives and the people that are in them, you know? Especially as women, I feel like men don't have a problem being like, yes, that was me, I did that. But for women, we're, oh, that wasn't me. Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I'm not, you know, doing enough. I'm not doing this. That didn't happen because of me.
We downplay.
Yes, we do.
We don't really give ourselves enough credit. We don't. We just, like I said, we just think about the next thing, but just really just have gratitude and go, okay, sister, I did that.
I did that.
Yeah.
Let me pat myself on the back. I did that. I accomplished that task. I showed up today and this manifested.
Yes,
We have to
absolutely.
celebrate the small wins because that's, I think for women, self-acceptance sometimes look like lack of confidence for a lot of women, just not believing in themselves. And you begin to believe more in yourself every time you show up. Like every time you take action, you just gain
Hmm.
like another dose of confidence to go, oh, that wasn't so bad. Okay. All right. That felt, I was nervous. Of course, that comes with life. I was nervous, but I was able to do it. And
Yeah.
that just gave you the courage to just strive even more, show up in different spaces that you probably wouldn't want to show up in, take on different risks in your job or, public speaking is your thing. Maybe you start doing podcasts, you start talking more, you get involved in your church. Like there are just ways that we can nurture those areas that we are afraid of
Hmm.
because there's no growth in that comfort zone. So we get comfortable where sometimes we need to be irritated to greatness. We need to be irritated to greatness. For a lot of women, we need to move on what we know because we get stuck on what we don't know.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
think we need to have all of the answers. And here goes the checklist. And this is what it's going to look like. Once you take that first step, this is what the expectations are. Move on what you know. I know that I want to be happy. Let me move on that. I know that I want to be at peace. I know that I want to find love. Let me move on the things that I can control and not be paralyzed by the things that are unknown. We
Hmm.
are paralyzed by the things that we don't even know.
Yeah.
We're not even giving ourselves a chance to try.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not
Yeah.
even giving ourselves a chance to just try and see what if,
Hmm.
What
what if,
Yeah.
what if I just showed up for myself just a little bit?
yeah.
Hmm.
What will
Do you
happen?
think that that gets harder as we get older, or do you think that gets easier?
I think it gets easier. I think it gets easier as you get older because you start to just unpack things and you go, okay, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 15 years and this doesn't feel, I don't want to feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like you worked hard in your career, you went to school, like the things that we worked so hard and diligent at, and we were running, 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 trying to achieve these benchmarks in life. As you get older, you're not chasing that. You're
Mm.
chasing freedom.
Yes.
Looks a little different.
A lot different.
But Kamisha, your facial expression looked a little different. Do you think it gets easier when you get older?
I think it gets easier if you are aware. I think it gets easier if you are aware. Yes.
Yeah.
If you are aware, as Adrian was saying, like we don't give ourselves enough credit. And when you talked about your exercise, it reminded me of another exercise that I heard. I think it was like on a podcast or something about when you are afraid to do something because you don't think that you're courageous, is you should make a list of all of the courageous things you've done.
Mm,
Make a list so to tell yourself I am courageous, I am brave. Maybe I'm not courageous in this new thing because I haven't done it, but
Yeah.
looking back on my life, I have been brave in this, in this, in this, in this, in this, and show yourself who you really are. That allows you to move on to that next thing, to be like, oh yeah, yeah, I've done that. Like you said, I did that. If I did that, I can do this. But we
Yeah.
don't spend time looking at who we have become and the things that we have done. But those kind of lists are very powerful as well. Because I do think if you look back and you're aware, then it is easier. But if
Yes.
you don't, and you're always kind of sitting in, oh, nothing ever happens for me, I've never done anything, bad stuff is always following me, da, da, it's not going to be easier, right? It's just, it gets harder.
we become victims in our own stories instead of
Hmm.
victorious. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have two thoughts out of what we were talking about. One is with and a question coming out of that is our self acceptance. Do you think do you think our self acceptance gets stifled when other women around us, instead of them clapping and cheering for us, they look at our self acceptance as arrogant
Mhm.
or overconfident? Talk a little bit, like how do you navigate that? How would you navigate that, Adrian?
Um, that happens. I think that happens in every corner of the world. I think we have all experienced what that is. But if people are truly, truly supportive of you and just understand what your journey has been and where you are now, they would know that it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight. It was a process that you were
Mm-hmm.
willing to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Those sleepless nights, those cries, moments of depression, like you did everything you can possibly do to get yourself to a place where you just feel free. And now you could just show up boldly. And I think for me, I got to that place of lacking the confidence, not wanting to show up to a place where, and just doing the work, just those little action steps that was preparing me for that next great thing that I was running from. And I think when those opportunities presents itself, people think you just wake up and you just start a podcast. They don't know we had self-doubt, we had imposter syndrome along the way. You've been talking about the podcast for 5 years. They don't see, you know, create a design, you threw that in they don't see the process. They see the finished product. And I don't think some people can appreciate that you have fortitude to be able to even build a podcast, start a website, do an LLC. You did all the things. So can we just celebrate where we are?
Yeah, that's true. And also, like, one of the reasons why we wanted to create this community is to get around more women who are like-minded, right? Who are actually doing things, taking risks, right? Pushing themselves, and then can encourage others too, right? Because sometimes it's difficult if you're surrounding yourself with people who are not helping to uplift you, because then that'll continue to keep you, in not a very good space, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. We're expected to do all the things, to be strong all the time, to never have a moment of not being strong, to be strong for not only ourselves, especially women of color, but for the people around us. We're supposed to be strong for them, but vulnerability lies within us. How do you balance strength and vulnerability, especially in a world that expects women of color to always hold it down, to always carry the torch? Like I said, we can't even be sick. You sick, are you gonna, can you just cook this food real quick for me? You know what I mean?
No, that's such a great question. Yeah, that comes into play in your relationship and your job, your personal expectations of wanting to be strong. And I felt like I had to be strong, just fighting through different challenges and where I grew up and to get to where I'm at now. But there's so much value in being vulnerable. There's so much value to be able to just sit, reflect, connect, unpack, because being able to just show that array of emotions it unlocks a whole new door where people can just look at you, just like, it's just a sense of humanity. Like, wow, I see you, thank you for even sharing that side of you. You're able to connect with people on such a deeper level when you are vulnerable and go, I don't want to be strong today. I don't want to problem solve today. I ain't trying to figure this out. I can't, it's outside of my capacity. I don't want to do it. And I hope that women get to that place where they can be vulnerable. And then when you have to put the cape on and, do the work, you do the work. But definitely give yourself the space to be able to just sit back and kind of unpack those feelings of tiredness, anxiety, whatever it is that you're facing. But for me, I love that I can just sit back and just have these dialogues with myself, have these dialogues with my husband of, I'm scared. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway because I know I need to grow in this area, but it's scary, right? Oh, I need help. I think the I got it syndrome holds us back because because we always want to be the savior. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. But it's okay to go, I don't have the bandwidth today. I don't have space. Right. So we just have to be true to who we are and not take on so much that we can't leave that white space on our calendar to just have those moments, because we're feeling it with so many other outside influences that it causes us to just operate in this go get it hustle mentality as women. And it's at some point you get burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
You get burnt out. Then we start talking about mental, that's why mental health is so important. But we have to create the space for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do it for ourselves. That is exactly what it is.
Being vulnerable.
I want to ask you, Kamesha, do you have anything to add to that when it comes to strength in especially a woman of color? And it's been like that. We've learned it. It's generational. It's not just something that's happening. It is literally generational. Like I said, I learned from my grandmother. She learned from her mom. They learned from their mom. Like, it is generational where we're doing all the things, and that is the sign of strength. And I feel like saying I can't is a sign of strength, because now you're owning what you can and cannot do. But what do you want to add to that, Kamesha?
No, I agree. I think that vulnerability is a strength.
Mm-hmm.
I think, first of all, vulnerability is a strength. Saying no is very powerful, and it's a complete sentence, as they say, right? No is a complete sentence. And just because people have done something one way before, that doesn't mean that we can't change it, right? To make room, as you said, to make room for us, to make room on our calendar, to open up space, open up time for us to make sure that we are okay, because we can't carry everything. We won't be okay anymore, right? Like, if we're running around carrying everything and doing all the things for other people, we aren't going to be okay. And also understanding that if you don't do all the things, that doesn't make you less than a mom, doesn't make you less than a wife, doesn't make you a less woman, doesn't make you less of a contributor to your community and society by saying, I don't want to do all the things. Maybe you can do all the things, because that's different, right?
Yeah.
Saying I can do them versus I want to do them. Mm-hmm. And I think many times for women, Black women especially, we're always proving ourselves. We constantly have to prove ourselves.
But we're proving ourselves to the outside entity, but it bleeds into our home, into our work life, into everything. It bleeds into that even more,
Yes. No, I understand, but also understanding we don't have to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
But you have to get to that point, right? You have to get to this point of, I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to do everything to show that I am valuable. And like you said, I guess a lot of that comes from, our history and our ancestry, and all of these things it's in our blood. Like, we can't deny it. I think lots of times we are trying to overcompensate for something that is already kind of just in us. Yeah, it's in us. We were born with it, always trying to prove ourselves and saying we're worthy and we're enough. But, to your point, Adrian, we have to then say to ourselves and work on our own mental health to be like, no, I don't have to do that. I choose not to. Yes, I can do all the things. Yes, I'm every woman. It's all in me, all of that. But I choose not to be every woman today.
Right. And that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Look, not looking to juggle and balance. Like, you're going to drop the ball. It's okay. But wherever your feet are planted, that's just where you show up and give it your absolute best. That's all you can do. Wherever your feet are planted, that is where you can just show up and give it your absolute best. And that's it. If you're wearing a mother hat, wear it well. If you get to work, put that hat on. But look, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah. And some days you might have to call in sick. We were talking about this earlier about quitting our job. I was calling in sick from cooking dinner today. I said, no, I can't do that. I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm calling in sick.
The pay ain't good anyway.
No, the pay is horrible. I'm paying.
Right.
Labor. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be able to do it. And everybody goes on, right? They figure it out. They make it happen. That's the other part too. Like, we can't be afraid that things are going to fall apart if we're not involved in it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But you know, when you think like that, you really don't give people the space to be able to navigate the situation, because you're always stepping in like the savior. Like, you don't even allow people to save themselves. Because
you must be my therapist today.
we got to allow people to save themselves.
No, you are absolutely right. You had asked the question about like, what are the lessons for motherhood? And I remember watching like a Oprah show, you know, and she had this woman on there talking about motherhood, and she was one of those people that's like, let the kids do what the kids do. And she was talking about how the mom was trying to get the child to like load the dishwasher, and then the kid wasn't loading the dishwasher right. So then she steps in, and to your point, she's like, but now you've taken power away from your child. Like, what kind of lesson are you teaching your child? Like, oh, you can't ever do that good enough, so don't do it. Right. And that is a very powerful lesson that we are not trying to teach, but it is a lesson that you now teach, because so I know, for example, that actually brought back a story for me when my youngest son, he would clean the bathroom. But my husband's a little bit of a clean person. So then he'd go in behind him and clean the bathroom. And my son got to the point where he's like, Mom, why am I cleaning the bathroom? Dad's going to come in. He's going to clean the bathroom. I can't clean the bathroom. And I had to go to my husband and say, you're taking his confidence away by going in behind him. It's okay if he doesn't do it like you do it. It's okay if it's not absolutely perfect, but certainly don't go in and make it seem like whatever he did is not worth it at all.
Especially in front of him.
Yes. Yes. But these are the kind of lessons that we are teaching. And that's when I had to start learning for myself, like, okay, paying attention to these little lessons that you don't think about, right? You don't, my husband's just like, I just want a clean bathroom. He's not thinking about, oh, well, what is that saying to your son about the lack of confidence that you have in him? Because that's what he got. He didn't get anything about you and your bathroom, obsession. He's like, your dad doesn't have any confidence in me. He can't even let me clean a sink.
That's important, because, think about, because you have that self-awareness, think about if the faster we get to that place where we can just really accept ourselves during this self-discovery journey, the invaluable lessons that we can teach our children.
Yes.
That we didn't have the luxury to be able to do that. But now we're in a space where we can kind of unpack some things and go, nope, if I say it this way, that's going to shoot him down or shoot her down. If I address her hair or that's going to make her self-conscious. Like, because we're self-aware, now we have better tools to use, because we have lived the life that we can now pass on to our children and hopefully.
But also, that's an active thing too, right, Adrian? Like, you have to be a parent that wants to be a good parent, a parent that wants to learn, right? A parent that wants to
and unlearn some of the stuff that has got you there. Yeah,
absolutely. Learn and unlearn.
Yep. So we have just a couple more questions, Adrian. We'll wrap this up. And one of them is spirituality. What do you think, or do you think that spirituality, our past, present, or current, road or journey in spirituality plays in our self-acceptance, especially a woman of color? Church was a huge part of my life. Very, how does that play in our self-acceptance?
Yeah, that is a journey in itself, being a PK kid in church for like 5 days a week, Kojic,
oh my God,
as a kid on the usher board, praise dance team when it came out. But I think we just went along to go along, because that's just what we had to do at that age. But I think as you get older, for me, I had to build my own relationship with God. And that was a huge, of course, one of the pillars and where I'm at today. I remember driving to work. I can remember because I had the date and time written down in my book. where I
Mm.
just said, God, tell me what it is that you want me to do. How do you want me to serve your people? Because my way, control, trying to perfection, and my way, it just wasn't working. I said, tell me exactly what it is that you want me to do. Like, I surrender. I remember that day. And from that day on, I just accept whatever it is that God had in store for me, people that He placed, places that I went. And I had to just stay locked in. That was my fortune, was just being connected to the word and truly building my own personal relationship with Him and surrounding myself. Then we go back to this environment, surrounding myself with great women's group, the Restored Women group, which I'm a part of. Pastor Simpson, out in Richmond, Virginia. I follow them, and just being fed day in and day out and just sowing in areas that I want to grow has really led to a life of just manifestations of things that I just put out into the universe. So I am forever grateful, and always make sure that I get up and really give God all the glory, because without Him, I already know Sister Girl would not be sitting here.
For sure. You said something very key there, though, when you said you went directly to God.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, that's something that we have to grow into, right? Because especially when you're younger, you might go through people. If you're Catholic, you're going through the priest, you're going through this person, that person. Instead of saying, I can go right to God, actually.
Yeah.
Like, and build, because yes, we are taught, because I grew up also in the church, that you're supposed to have a relationship with God, but there's something that's kind of always in the way, right? It's kind of like you're maybe not worthy enough. But then once you go directly to God and you get the answers, then you're like, oh, so there's a different way. That's not the way, that I was necessarily taught and told, but this is the way now that is working for me, and building your own relationship so that you can hear the messages directly and believe that you can hear the messages directly.
And there we go, going right back to finding your own path, your own journey. Yours may look completely different than the next person, but it's your journey and it's your path. And no matter how you get there, the sins of comparison is not going to help you by comparing yourself to how the next person got there, just as long as you get there. So I totally agree. My last question to you, as we know, tomorrow, October 11th, I didn't even know this, but I've seen everywhere where tomorrow is Black Women's Mental Health Day. And I think today is actually World Mental Health Day. Right. But tomorrow is Black Women Mental Health Day. And it says, that if you don't do anything, take care of your mental well-being. What advice, Adrian, would you give to other women of color who may be struggling with self-acceptance and feeling pressure to conform, or the pressure of comparison? What advice would you give?
My advice to women, I would tell you to take the small steps, take the necessary steps, and give yourself some time in that journey. Whether it's 15 minutes just for you, if it's in the morning, if you come home from at night, if you spend extra little time in the bathroom, just really have some time for yourself to unpack. I remember my daughter going away to college, and it was a lot for her. And I would go, change your environment, go spend a night in a hotel, get some time with yourself, unpack. Sometimes a change of environment can make all of the difference, because we're just coming and going into the same spaces. And sometimes we just need a moment alone. Sometimes you don't have the luxury to just get up and go on vacation. But what can you do within that day, within that week, that can kind of give you a fresh breath of air, that you can just kind of insert back into your life, to kind of, give you that dose of energy to keep moving. So just finding time to just have those quiet moments. I think that's important. For me, one of the things is my morning is my morning. It's my meditation. It's my worship. It's not calling me to problem solve early in the morning. Like, we don't need to hear voice. You know, like, it can be a lot with social media and the phones and the family and work, and that you never have time to really hear yourself.
Yeah.
So set boundaries. I think that's hard for a lot of people, but it's probably one of the most important things you can do is set boundaries for yourself and stick to them. Right?
How do you set boundaries?
Oh, I tell people, don't call me before 10. Don't send me anything that's going to disturb my soul. If I get a message from one of my siblings and I know it's something crazy, they already know I'm not reading it because I don't want certain things in my spirit. Yeah. So I protect my space. I didn't always do that because I wanted to rescue, I wanted to save, I wanted to be there. But as I have gotten older, I have been so diligent in my self-care and my pursuit to just be at peace. And I have to take ownership of that. And people just have to kind of respect where you are. I said, if it's that much of an emergency, you can always call 911.
You're reminding me of my grandma. My grandma, whenever the phone would ring, she was never one to rush to answer the phone. So we're like, "Oh, grandma, what you didn't get the phone?" She's like, "Oh, if it's important, they'll call back."
Right.
And that was it. It was that simple. Because she's like, I'm busy. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm not rushing to get to the phone, you know. So if it's important, they'll call back. And that was a simple boundary that at the time I didn't realize was a boundary. But that was a boundary for her to say, I'm going to get to what I'm going to get to when I get to, you know what I mean? When I get to it. And I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to change what I'm doing and go run to the phone or to answer this message or to do what, because all that is that's coming in is a request for you. It's got, you know, it's something that somebody else wants you to do. That's it. They just come.
Their urgency and they want to make it an emergency. No, that's your urgency. It's not mine. Not mine. It's not mine. So just really
yeah, boundaries are important. It's not easy.
Important. Yeah.
But it's important. And sometimes you might be seen as like the mean person or the person that don't never have time and too busy. Okay. But I got time for what I need time for, not for what you want me to have time for.
No, they understand. My brother, he goes, I know you wasn't going to read that long message. I read the first 2 lines and said, oh, it's going someplace I'm not ready to receive. Not with my girlfriends. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I made space for him, but at the time that I was ready to receive and be able to be fully present for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't say anything about him either. Because a lot of times people take things personal, like, oh, she not reading my message. Like, why is she acting like this? Why is she treating me like this? Like, treating you, I'm doing something for me. This doesn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure we show up in our best selves. And that's important. If you know that mentally you're fatigued or you're not going to give off that nurturing love and be communicative, you could say, I know this may be a pressing issue, but right now I am not in a good space, but we can resume this tomorrow morning at 11. You know what I mean? Like, and you can just say that just in that same monotone. I'm not disregarding how you feel, but at this moment, I don't have the bandwidth. I had a very long day. But if you have time, with 11 o'clock tomorrow work for you.
Yeah. I'm going to say this before we wrap up. I saw this movie. I can't think of the name of the movie, but it was about this guy who moved his wife and 2 kids from the United States to another country. And when they get to this country, the mom, they get her, the wife, she's in the bathroom in the middle of the night and she's weeping. She's crying because she never wanted to move from her village and her support. And what the company had promised him, how they were living, was a little bit different than what they were promised. And she's in the bathroom, and Kamesha, Adrian, she's like boohoo weeping, like 2, 3 in the morning, just sitting on the floor silently weeping. You know, during the day she has this mask on where she's serving and helping everyone, and at night this one particular night, her husband, he walks in the bathroom and he bends down. Excuse me, he bends down to talk with her, and she looks at him and she says, "I can't right now. I can't do you and do me. So you have to leave me and let me do me," you know? And I just thought, what a powerful scene. He came in and and the words he was saying to her was turning the victimization around, that he was the victim. I did this with you. I'm here. Did you think, I did this for the family? And she never raised her voice, anything. She just looked at him and she said, I can't do you and do me. I need to do me first,
Wow.
And I just thought that was so powerful, because she set a boundary right there, and she wasn't mean. She wasn't unloving. She was simply saying, I can't care for you because I'm trying to care for me right now. I'm trying not to have a nervous breakdown, So I agree. I totally agree. Adrian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a powerful conversation, for not just women of color, but for all women. We experience it because we are women of color, but so we experience it a little bit different, and sometimes a little bit deeper and a little bit harder. But the Wisdom in Bloom family, we are here to try and build a community of sisterhood who has these conversations, who we eventually branch out and do these workshops and take these conversations to execute results on how we can help resolve a little bit or alleviate a little bit of the pains of the things that women over 40 go through, and especially women of color. So thank you for being a part of that. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This has been so good to my soul. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
So before we wrap up, though, Kamesha, Miss Adrian, can you let everyone know where they can follow you at? Give a shout out to your community and any other, products or services that you are offering to your community.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Real Talk Adrian, or you can visit my website, adriangoodwin.com. You can purchase my children's book on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or Walmart. I'm available for speaking engagements, workshop. I'm willing to travel. Just follow me and just send me an email. And I would love to just, be able to share with your community, just to motivate, inspire, and change the lives of those around us. I think it's just important that we continue to just lift each other up and correct our crown as we journey through this thing called life. We need one another more now than ever. We do.
Absolutely. And your information will be in our show notes once we release this episode as well, for those who want to reach out to you. Kamesha?
That was wonderful. I love how you said correct our crown. That was that was amazing. I love that. Yeah. And embracing our authentic selves and making sure that we are practicing self-acceptance are just so important and so vital for our mental health, right? For our physical health, for those that are around us in our lives that we care for as well. So thank you so much again for joining us. It is a journey, as you said. It's all a journey, but it's going to be all right because we got each other, and it's going to be okay. And we're going to take it one step at a time and one day at a time. But this has been our Wisdom in Bloom podcast. You can find us on all the podcast platforms and, of course, on our YouTube channel, Wisdom in Bloom. And we are at Wisdom in Bloom on all the things, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So please join us there. Please reach out and comment and, let us know what you thought about this episode. That would be amazing. Leave us a review. And share with your friends. So this has been another wonderful, wonderful episode of Wisdom in Bloom. And as we say at the end of every episode, Denise, keep blooming, ladies.
Keep blooming, ladies.
Wonderful.